Hi, it's me, Vicky Marie. And first thing I want to do is say thank you so much for all your comments. You know, I asked you about menopause, which I'm going to change the name of in this video, as you'll see. And I got so many comments online and emails, etc., just with people's experiences and experiences of their friends or family or parents or their wife, you know, so men joined in too, which was great, because I did worry a little bit about this video because I thought, oh, men aren't going to be interested in this, but they are, so and that's good because they care about their partners. I've got so much to say to start off with. First of all, thanks for that, because that's helped me put this video together, which I've really been quite looking forward to doing. I probably could have waited and got more comments, but I wanted to do it. I normally do a video on a Tuesday and another one on a Friday, so I'm trying to stick to that sort of schedule. First of all, housekeeping. Thank you so much. Loads of you have bought my book. I always should have one handy, shouldn't I, instead of having to go searching for it. Lots of you have bought my book, Confessions of a Spanish Teacher, which talks about my sort of life when I was young and why I came to Spain, and a couple of experiences. So, and you know, it's not only sad, this book. It hopefully somebody commented it was funny in places. I always said I wanted it to make you laugh, make you cry, and what do I say on the back? I hope to make you angry at least once. I hope to make you cry at least twice. And I hope to make you laugh many times. So that's the Confessions of a Spanish Teacher, available on any Amazon site. And thank you. You can get it in the paperback version, which is this, or you can get it on Kindle as well, which is cheaper, of course. So that's the first thing. Then also I just want to mention my Spanish classes. Again, I've certainly seen an increase in the volume of Spanish books that have been bought, so maybe that's come off this channel. Thank you so much for that. Certainly my subscribers as well. I know some of you from here have gone over to the channel and subscribed to help me out, even though I am already monetized on the other channel. But it's a small I mean, believe me, I'm not an internet sensation. I'm not saying I'm not, but you know, it's good, and I think it helps people with their learning of Spanish as well. So yes, I have books to learn Spanish on Amazon. Again, I haven't kept one in me, but if you put in Vicky Riley on Amazon Spanish, and it's Vicky with an I, all the books that I've got for sale on there should come up, and I'm hoping to write some more books eventually. So that's the second thing. And if you want to support this channel, you can buy me a coffee. The link should be below if you feel like it. Thank you so much. Just watching, subscribing and liking is enough, but if you do want to support this channel, thanks for that. So the other thing I wanted to say is on the video, not the last one, but the Easter egg video about Nicola Bulley. I asked you all, you lovely chatters, to tell me where you're from, and wow, you know what, it's just amazed me to see people from all over the UK, but also from all over the world, from different countries. So I wanted to just give a couple of examples of where people come from. First of all, in England, we've got people from Milton Keynes watching, Derby, Redcar, West Midlands, North, the North, somebody just said the North of England, Manchester, Birmingham, Brighton, West Sussex, Bristol, Devon, London, Southwest. You know, a real combination of places that people are watching from in England. Now, my geography is not brilliant, but it seems to me from that, they're from all over England, you know, not just the North, not just the South, etc. And then from other countries, we have some people watching from Canada, from various parts of Canada, so various viewers from Canada, St. Louis, Missouri in America, and California, various places in America, Scotland, South Africa, New Zealand, Ireland, Wales, and Calgary, which I do believe is in Canada. We've got various people watching from Canada, so yeah, I'm loving all that. It's really nice to think, because I know a lot of you have probably come to this channel because of the stories or the videos on Nicola Bulley, but isn't that fantastic that people all over the world do care about Nicola, and you know, they want to know what happened to her. So one thing I'm going to address in this video today, which is you know, primarily about the menopause, is do we think that Nicola was suffering from the menopause? I mean, I presume it'll be in her medical records, but of course we don't know what they are yet, whether that'll be released when the coroner releases the report in June or whenever. Why is it so long? You know, anyway, I don't know. I can't comment on it really, because I don't know all the ins and outs, do I, of everything. But yeah, so it'll be June before we know anything for sure. Whether her medical records will come up there, I don't know, and seems a bit unfair if they do, but then everybody knows anyway now that she had these problems, supposedly, because her partner told the world about it. But yeah, you know, I was looking at pictures of Nicola and I was thinking, well, one, I think she, you know, she's a little bit young for the menopause. Now, I know that people can go through the menopause even in their 30s. She's that little bit young, perhaps, but not impossible. I know, certainly for the perimenopause, but to be on HRT and all that, even going, once you're going on HRT, surely you're quite in an advanced stage of it by then. Also, something I just wanted to mention is she's very slim, Nicola, wasn't it? I mean, she's so slight. I mean, like, very, very slight. She makes, whatever photograph she's in, she makes other people look like a bit chubby, even though they're not. If they're next to me, they wouldn't look chubby at all. But Nicola is very slender. And you do tend to put on a bit of weight with the menopause. So I don't know, maybe that's, I just don't know, if she was going through the menopause, but time will tell. And because of her being so slight, something that struck me was probably she wouldn't have to drink much alcohol to make her feel to be drunk, because there's nothing to her. You know, I can drink quite a lot of alcohol because I'm quite substantial, but I think if you only weigh, I don't know, she looks like she weighs maybe 8 stone, you know, maybe less, I don't even know, but you don't need to drink much for that to affect you, especially if you're not eating much at the same time. So yeah, maybe that's why they were saying, oh, she had a problem with alcohol, but maybe she didn't. I mean, she could probably have 2 glasses of wine and be drunk, where it'd take me a bottle of wine to be drunk. So, you know, not even then if I'd eaten at the same time. So I rarely drink just for the sake of drinking. I normally, you know, drink around meals and things, you know, a bottle of wine with a meal, or I don't know, whatever. But do you see where I'm going with this? So that might be why they were saying, oh, she had an alcohol problem. Maybe she didn't really have an alcohol problem as far as we would consider it. It's just that because she was so slender, alcohol maybe did sort of affect her quite quickly. Just a thought. But as perfectly honest, I'm still of the opinion that she didn't have those problems. Until somebody provides me with some evidence that she actually did provide those problems. The only evidence I can see with my own eyes and watching the things I've watched and the impressions I've got, that's the only evidence I can deal with at the moment. To me, I would say, well, I would have no reason to believe that. You know, just seeing her in a photo on Facebook with a glass of wine, along with many other people who've got glasses of wine, just means nothing. Okay, so that's what I just wanted to mention. So yeah, it struck me to, you know, is if Nicola's death was oh, I've got to call it, so I'm going to call it self-removal, because YouTube doesn't like saying the other big S word, and so whenever I say self-removal, I think you know what I mean. So if Nicola's death was due to self-removal, as opposed to somebody else removing her, was menopause a factor? Possibly. Okay, possibly. If it was that. Now, there's a couple of things apart from the whatever I think of her partner or any of the other things going on in their situation. I still think it'd be a strange way to do it, because women tend to choose ways of doing that are more gentle, if you like, you know, tablets or with alcohol, or the thought of jumping in a freezing cold river and not really knowing if it was going to work. You know, if you knew for sure it was going to work, fair enough, but just seems a bit ridiculous to me. I certainly wouldn't do that if I was, you know, because I would think, well, I don't even know if that's going to work, and I could go through, you know, just be sopping wet, sat in the bottom of, you know, I mean, I don't know, you know, she still could have done it for that reason. Maybe she'd, I don't know, read about somebody else who'd done it and it had worked, so she decided to do it, but nah, you know, it's just not right. Yeah. Anyway, I can't go on about that anymore, because I think you all know how I feel. But okay, let's look at the name of it. So we don't like the name. I think one thing that is pretty much acknowledged is we don't like the name. And a lot of people say, why has it got men in it? You know, why is it menopause? And I looked into the origin of the name, and it's the men comes from the Greek for month, and then pauin or something means to stop or to pause. Of course, we know pause. So it's the stop of your monthlies. Like this word men from the Greek is associated with month and moon, of course, and the menstrual, you know, so we see men a lot, don't we, in like menstruate and menstrual cycle and that, and this all comes from the Greek for month. So that's where it comes. So it's not actually from men, it's from month. And yeah, I mean, of course, it's been called other things over the years. When I was young, my mum called it the change. It was the change. Or Mrs. such and such, she's going through the change, you know, and it was like very sort of, oh, mustn't talk about it. It was like some dirty secret, you know. And I'm very sad to say that when my mum went through the change, I was totally unsympathetic. I was about 17, I think, at the time. I remember her talking about it, and I was just like, well, you know, what are you going on about? You know, typical selfish teenager, I'm afraid. But of course I didn't know about it. I hadn't been educated. A really good comment, which, because I'm going to read through the comments and things later, I started writing them down, and then I thought, oh my God, this is going to take me all day. There was that many of them. I think it's better if I just read them. Somebody said that, you know, if we're taught about our menstrual cycle in school, why aren't we taught about the change at the same time? Because then it's just like you just talk about that, but when it comes to the end bit, we don't know anything about it. Now, at the time, as I'm sure I did and you did, if you were in sex education classes, and we all giggled and we all thought it was a big laugh, but I do remember them though still. So it's funny. So although I thought it was all a bit embarrassing and ridiculous, I do remember those classes, and they did help. I didn't even realise that they were helping. So even later on in life, you would remember back, even if it was for the embarrassment of it. So I think that's a brilliant idea. I think it should be taught in schools. I really do. You know, it should be part of that sex education syllabus. And I don't know what the syllabuses are now. In fact, I don't know what they've been for many years, because my son was brought up here in Spain. So I don't know what in Britain or any other country. I don't think there was anything in Spain. Well, my son didn't mention it anyway. But yeah, some messages for, and not only for the girls, but for the boys. So these are, as I say, these are natural things. We're not talking about something unnatural in life, you know. These are natural things, and people should be familiar with them, because nobody escapes it. No woman escapes it. No man doesn't have to watch his mom, sister, wife, you know, suffering through it, friend, you know, so we should know about it. just like we should know about any other natural part of life. And I was thinking, remember when I was young, your periods, we used to call it the curse. I mean, it's awful, really, isn't it, when you think about how it's been treated over the years. So we're actually calling it the curse. And I mean, of course, hundreds of years ago, women were treated as unclean if they had a period, you know, or anyway. But there you go. So things have got better. Things have got better. We've got to acknowledge things are better now. So that's where the name comes from, and then we've had the change, which I don't really like. Somebody suggested, I read on a site that I was looking at, womenopause instead of menopause, but I think that's just too much to say, isn't it? Womenopause. I can't say it, it doesn't flow. But somebody suggested we should call it the freedom, which I thought was brilliant, because if you look at it in a positive way, it is a freedom as well. You've got to think, you know, yeah, there are things that I'll be going through the positives and the negatives. But it is a freedom. It's freedom from a lot of things, which we will be looking at. I quite like the word femopause. So instead of menopause, femopause. What do you think? I'm going to call it that for the rest of this video. So I've decided that's what I'm going to call it from now on. So remember, we've got two new words in this video. We've got femopause and self-removal. So I looked into the self-removal statistics because a gentleman, actually, subscriber, a man, he did say to me, you know, have a look at the self-removal statistics for femopause, and they're interested. So I did look. I looked. Now, what's very interesting is, you know, just as a world figure, sort of the female self-removal rates in the UK are 4 people for every 100,000. The US, there's 7 for every 100,000. Now, overall, and what I noticed was that in some countries, a lot of Eastern European countries, is very high, higher than that, maybe 11 people, where it's only 4 in the UK. Some African countries, poor countries, really high in the 11s, etc., which was interesting. But what you can't escape is it's at the male rate of self-removal is vastly higher than this. So much more men who self-remove than women. I've just realised I've written something down here that I don't understand what I've written down. You know, when you write a note and then look at it and think, what does that note mean? But anyway, so although the female frequency of self-removal is higher, over 46, also with men it's higher, over 65, which is interesting. So a lot of people think because it's higher, over 46 for women, that this is due to femopause. Well, I think that's probably, but there are so many other factors then, aren't they? You know, because along with the femopause comes so many more things. Realising, you know, you're getting older, maybe you're not as attractive as you used to be if you're a woman who's always been very, very attractive. And I'm not saying that women who are attractive don't feel these things, but it can be because they've relied on their looks, if you like, and as they get older, that it's like a dawning, isn't it, that you are getting older. This comes along with it, not only for the way you look, but maybe for your career. Your children are now teenagers, and if any of you have had teenagers, you know that is not a nice epoch to go through. I mean, it's horrible. You know, sometimes I wonder if we really knew what it's like to have teenagers, if we would bother in the first place sometimes, you know. But it's a stage and you get through it, but it can make you feel bad. You know, there's a lot of things going on, you know, at that time. It could be the time when your partner has an affair with somebody else, a younger woman, and then maybe you have to face them having children with this younger woman. You can't have children anymore because you've gone through the femopause, so I don't think it's just the femopause symptoms that cause this increase, although it's obviously part of it, but I think you've got to look at the wider picture and all the outside things that are going on at the same time. Also, any little illnesses are starting to come out, then maybe got a bit of arthritis, or problem with your back, or you've got diabetes, or you've got some, there's so many things start happening around that age, whereas really up to sort of probably that age you more or less feel indestructible, don't you? I mean, a lot of people get ill before that age, but a lot of people, I think, when you're young, you don't even think that you could be ill, or I don't know, that to me, I think you have panic attacks, maybe panic attacks and things like that, where you think you're ill but you're not really ill, not really got, and then you get into your 40s and you start with these little niggling things. So all those combined with the fact that your body is changing, the way people, everything is changing in your life. Your children are grown up, they're either living at home and driving you mad, or they've left home and you've got empty nest, and you think, well, what I'm going to do with my life now. For those women who have been just, I say just, gosh, I don't know, just slipped out with it, who've been a mother more than a career person, suddenly they've got to find a new way in life again because their children are going off and doing their own thing, and we have to let them go as much as it's difficult. So I think, and it's interesting about the male frequency increased over 65, so which is obviously later than, because I think for men, because they don't have a femopause obviously, but they, I don't know, there are obviously issues that occur with men in later life, and perhaps they come a bit later over 65, because us men are still fertile, they can still have children, they may have some problems with erectile dysfunction or things like that, or prostrate's a big thing, isn't it, with men, but seems to be later, so that's interesting. And also in the studies that I was looking at, it was saying that women may have more suicidal thoughts than men, but men commit suicide more often. That's interesting, isn't it? And because a suicidal thought, oh gosh, I've said the word which I'm not supposed to say, but I don't know, they flit through your head, don't they? I mean, that, in my opinion, they do. Probably there's not many people it has never, ever flitted through their head, but maybe there are, maybe you'll tell me I'm wrong and I accept being wrong. But they're normally flitting through your head and flit out again because you think, oh, well, I couldn't do that to the kids, or I couldn't do it to my parents, or I couldn't, these other factors come in. But it seems like with men, they're more likely to actually do it than just think it. And also they use different methods, more dramatic methods that are guaranteed to work. Not like, as I say, jumping in a river, which to me just seems like a very bizarre method to do that if you were certain that you wanted to do it. Unless, I don't know, as I say, the full story. Maybe Nicola had heard of someone who had done it and it had been successful, and she thought, and I know quite a lot of people have committed suicide. Obviously, anybody does who's got to my age in life. I don't know of anyone who's thrown themselves into a river. Anyway, okay, so yeah, male frequency increased over 65. Why do we think that is? Let me know now, you guys out there, you tell me, what do you think might happen to a man when he gets to 65? Similar to like the femopause for women in their 40s. What might happen to a man that would make him more likely to remove himself, I wonder? Okay, so I'm going to read some of the comments now because it's so interesting, I think, reading all these comments. And I've got to find it, so you've got to bear with me a little bit, I'm afraid. While I'm looking for it, I want to talk about my own personal experience. I was one of these people who really didn't realise it was happening, and then suddenly it had happened. I was very lucky. No hot flushes or flashes, no that I know of. As I say, I live in Spain, and from June to September it's boiling hot here anyway. So maybe that's why. Maybe I just didn't even realise, hey, that I was going through it, or maybe I was lucky. And there's a reason. There's a little thing I want to talk about in a while that. One of the reasons, anyway, I'll talk about it when we get to it. So let's have a look at these comments. So many comments. I don't know if I'll have time to read them all out. So I've got one lady who said, I did not think I would have a difficult menopause, as I'm a very positive person and I kept myself fit. How wrong I was. I felt like I'd been thrown under a bus. Hot flushes followed by icy blasts. I had to hold my jaw to stop it dislocating every few minutes through day and night, so did not sleep for nearly 2 months while trying to hold down a very challenging professional career and try everything I could to no avail. After thinking I would have to give up my job and lose any hope of quality of life, I took HRT and it worked brilliantly for me. I know it's not for everyone, but I definitely felt it was right for me, and I feel it saved my life. Or practically saved my life. I've got a lady from Ireland, I think. My mother went through the menopause, didn't even know it, other than her period stopped. Same for myself. And her mother lived to 95 years old, which is interesting. But then she did go on to say her sister had quite a lot of problems, so that's strange, isn't it? Then we've got Melinda there who's saying about calling it the freedom. She was the lady that, I think that's a brilliant idea. I went through menopause in my early 50s with little discomfort, some hot flashes, a bit emotional at times and flat moods. Not having my monthly period is such a huge relief for me because I had terrible PMT and that's one of the things I'm going to put in the positives. You know, people say about the mood swings that they have after femopause, but at the end of the day, they had those before every month, you know, with the likely, so, you know, you're sort of gaining in one way, if you like, and losing in another. Putting on weight, she did put, I'm calmer and happily single now, which my pre-menopause self wouldn't have liked. I do think this is you do tend to put on weight after menopause. I've always had a weight problem all my life, so probably didn't make that much difference to me. But you know, to those ladies out there who've always been very slim, then that would be a problem, I would imagine. And would this lady also developed some health problems, including an autoimmune illness. I don't know if that is because of femopause or because she may have developed that anyway. I don't know. I've got another lady who's 70. I don't remember having menopause or femopause. Everything just stopped. My eldest sister never had any symptoms either, but my middle sister went through a rough time and had medication. I feel for people who have severe symptoms. Another lady, I started perimenopause. Perimenopause, so we'd have to call that perifemopause, is what happens just before, you know, it's like the build-up where your periods start becoming erratic. And, you know, I do remember that happening, where they weren't as regular as they were before, and you couldn't predict when they might happen. I believe that's, because I remember reading about the time that it's like your body's giving you that last-ditch effort to get pregnant and throwing eggs out whenever it can, because it knows there's not many left. So I don't know if that's true, but I did read that at the time. So yeah, I do remember that. This lady says, it was the worst moment of my life. I felt I was two different people. It was the only time I've considered checking myself in anywhere. Massive panic attacks. Fine 1 minute, manic the next. And luckily for her, her partner at the time was a GP. Oh gosh, it'd be lovely to be going out with a doctor, wouldn't it, at that time? And helped her through it. So the medication, she doesn't say what the medication is, I don't think, but the medication made her normal again. She never expected it because her mum had no symptoms at all and breezed through it, and she did turn to alcohol just to make her feel semi-normal again. But she doesn't think that this is the case with Nikki. Because I think what we do know about Nikki as well, which we definitely do because of the Fitbit and her posts and things, she was a very healthy person. She was a health conscious person. I don't believe she'd just throw it all to the winds. And anyway, so this lady is saying she was about 41 when she started Peri. And she was the lady who said, in my opinion, it should be taught alongside menstrual advice in high schools. It's like they miss off the end of the story. Another lady, I struggled with the menopause. My doctor wouldn't help me, didn't offer me HRT. I think HRT is quite difficult to get now in Britain, isn't it? So I find exercise and eating as well as I can helps. An omega supplement, added vitamins. Not a cure, but has helped me, especially with sleep. So a lot of people say their sleep patterns are affected, don't they? As they get older, I think in general people supposedly don't sleep as much. Yeah, that could be true. I've never really slept more than 6 hours, except when I was a teenager, I'd be in bed all day on a Sunday like we all did. But yeah, 6 to 8 hours I find okay. But yeah, sometimes I do wake up in the morning early, but it's normally when I've got something to worry about, I think. Another lady had palpitations, and she went to say that she thought she was suffering with menopause, but because she was only 40, she said she was practically laughed out of the door. She was far too young. Her hot flashes started at 47, they were horrendous, so she decided to go and see a female, had her bloods taken, and it was confirmed, because of course I think they can tell by your blood, by blood tests, whether you're on femopause or not. I've not suffered depression, but I have a bit of brain fog and hot flashes, still awful at 53. I couldn't have HRT due to my family history, because the thing about HRT is it's dangerous in itself, isn't it? Can be. That's what frightened me, because I know I've got bad circulation. All the reasons where it said you shouldn't take HRT, I was all of them at the time, or any time I've ever looked into it. I was smoking, I don't smoke now, overweight, bad circulation, my heart problem, my father had a bad heart, so I was like reading through the tick list and thinking, oh no, I'm never taking that, but because as I say, I'm scared of taking anything that's much more than an aspirin. But and this lady says, I know this isn't about Nicola, so it's not about Nicola, this video, but it's what happened to Nicola that sort of made me think about it, to ask you what you think about it. So it's not about Nicola, but this is something positive that's come out of it, that people are talking about it. She says, it surprised me that her mum was not aware of her issues, because normally you would expect her to confide in her mum because she also went through it. Anyway, let's see. So I had another lady saying, I haven't been, I'm not at that stage yet, but I'd rather hear what it's like from another female than another person who won't be named. That's she's referring to Nicola's partner. So yeah, there's people out there that are watching this that have gone through it a long time ago maybe. There's people who haven't gone through it yet. On my viewing statistics, I have ages from round about late 20s, 30s. Really, I don't have many viewers in their 20s, but from 30s upwards, unlimited. So there'll be those of you out there who aren't anywhere near it yet. But it's good that you can think about when it does happen, because it will happen. Well, you hope it happens, because if it doesn't happen, that means something's happened to you in between. So you don't, old age is getting old is a privilege denied to many. I'm a great believer of that. So I lost again, this is in my book, I lost my best friend when she was 19 in a car accident. So she never had to go through any of this, but she never got a chance to have children. She never got a chance to have a life. So, it's good that you get to that point where this happens to you, because that means you're having a full, long life that everyone deserves. So yeah, another thing for HRT. What have we got here? Somebody here saying they tried the HRT Oh, this is Kamara, yeah, because she actually bought my book as well, so she enjoyed the book. Thank you. She's a fellow Mancunian, and she was on hormone patches, but she took them off because they gave her itchy arms. So that's it. You can have some side effects from any treatment, can't you? Right, okay. Another lady who said she was distraught because she was 50 when she started, her partner is 17 years. I had a partner that's 17 years younger than me, but anyway, he's not in that book. That's part 2 coming out. Spanish. Losing sleep, hot flushes, sweats, tired, short-tempered. And she didn't want to take HRT, but in the end she did, because otherwise she thought she would go crazy. But she's still having hot flushes, but she finds that drinking water helps. Portable air conditioner, somebody's saying here, Wendy. Yeah, because the sweats, as I say, I didn't go through them, but you know, you sweat all through the summer here anyway. So fans. This lady says a portable air conditioner. Have some air, you know, consider having an air conditioner. It's not as expensive as you think. You know, I have to run air conditioner through June, July and August. And recently my son moved back home and I had to have it put into his room as well. And I was dreading it because he leaves it on 24 hours. But, sorry, it's talking always brings what's left of my cough on. It's not as bad as you think, or here. I think in the UK, if you watch, I don't know about America and the other countries, but I know in the UK, bills are through the roof at the moment, aren't they? But not here in Spain. So yeah, portable air. One of those. I remember my mum had one of those little battery-held fans that she's using, or of course you can get the Spanish fans, you know, just to flick out when you're having a hot flush. Another lady started at 15. I was okay apart from hot flushes. I was glad the period stopped. Oh, and then we've got a gentleman here who's saying that his wife is going for it. Derek, hi Derek. His wife, she won't take HRT because she's frightened it could cause cancer. I'm supporting her the best I can. I mean, that's lovely, good, so nice. Yeah, another girl here saying you can buy, I'm assuming it's a woman, you can buy supplements from a health shop, Starflower, evening primrose oil, capsules for the femopause. Yeah, now we've got to be careful. Sorry, I'm just going. Oh yeah, and something that I mentioned on one of the things in Scotland, of course, your prescriptions are free, and now I believe, correct me if you're watching from Scotland, this is not the case, let me know. Your monthly period requirements, if you like, are free, tampons, etc. That's true, isn't it? I think aren't they free now, or available on prescription? And so they should be, because they are essential. As I said, I think they're essential. They're not luxury. You know, you can't do without them. You need them, so they should be free. But anyway, there you go, that's my opinion. Right, so yeah, I mean, there are more comments there, but I could, gosh, how long have I been on? I don't know. I've already been on for 40 minutes and just about got through the comments. Okay, so these are the situations, these are the things that people feel when they're going through the femopause or the perifemopause. So I want to look at some natural remedies. That lady there mentioned about evening primrose oil, and I've heard of Valeria, is it? Valeria that you can take. You know, there's lots of different products now, aren't there? We're much more aware of the thing about complementary medicine, if you like. You don't have to choose one or the other. You don't have to go with conventional medicine from your doctor or complementary. You know, I have a couple of students that are doctors, and what I love about them is they say they complement each other. You know, so if you were on HRT, or if you were on, not only talking about the femopause, if you were talking about any illness, herbal, you know, you can always say to your doctor, are there any anything that helps is a bonus, isn't it? And if it doesn't help, if you take them and they don't help, well, you just stop taking them. You know, it's like, just try it. Because I think one thing that definitely has come out of all those messages, everyone's different. This is probably what makes it so complicated. So you can't say like, oh, well, you know, you break your leg, you have to put plaster on, it takes 3 months to recover, blah, 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 blah. I mean, all right, there might be slight variances. But this is not like that. This can affect people because it's all dependent on not only the physical changes that are going on in your body, but what's going on at home, what's your personal circumstances, what's your job circumstance, you know, what are your kids, have you got a load of teenage kids, or have you got young kids? You know, you could still have young kids and be trying to cope with menopause. These are all these different factors, so it's something that we have to talk about. Support groups are important, aren't they, and things like that. So natural remedies, plant-based diets, water, licorice, anise, fennel, pollen extract, black cohosh, which I don't know what I'm saying it in the Spanish way, cohosh, you do pronounce your H's in English, soya milk, all these things. And when I was reading that, I thought, oh, that's interesting. I wonder if that's why when it happened to me it wasn't that bad, because I'm not a vegetarian. I am what I call a failed vegetarian. I try so hard. You know, I don't really want to eat meat, but I do end up, you know, I'm a lapsed vegetarian. I was a proper a pescatarian for quite a long time before I had my son. And then unfortunately I did start eating meat again, and now I eat it, but so infrequently, you know, it's like, and I only eat chicken or mince, that's basically it. Lots of vegetables. Luckily I still love vegetables from my time of not eating meat. I eat a lot of fish, tuna, etc. So I wonder if that's why it wasn't so bad for me, just because I do eat a lot of those things that they recommend. So even though I'm not a vegetarian, I'm not a vegan, but I'm not far off it, if that makes sense. I don't know what I am really. There's probably a lot of names for what I am, but please be kind. But yeah, so I eat those things, you know, eat anything. It's not much that I don't like. I just love food, but I do especially like vegetables, mushrooms, tomatoes. I think tomatoes are very good for you. I really do think that tomatoes are like a good food for you. You know, so it's possible. I don't eat red meat. Well, I say I don't eat red meat. I eat mince. It's funny how you don't think of it in the same way, but I don't like steak. I don't ever eat offal or anything like that. It's just a total no-no for me. So is it possible that maybe that's why? Maybe that's a difference. So it's something to think about, isn't it? Maybe as you're coming up to femopause, to eat less meat. You know, maybe it does help with hormonal things. I don't know, I'm just suggesting that it came to me when I was reading that. I thought, well, you know, my diet is full of those things. And I'm in the process of crossing over to soya milk. I like the soya milk with chocolate, but I'm still not 100%. I'm gradually crossing over, because of my coffee and things like that, I do like proper milk, and I just feel awful drinking it because I know it's so cruel. But I'm working on it. It's gradually hopefully by the end of the year I will have cut normal milk out completely. So let's just look then at femopause and the negatives first of all. I mean, there are negatives. I'm not going to say, you know, I'm trying to change it into a more positive vibe, a more positive event in a woman's life, but there are negatives. Weight gain is a negative. You know, I think your metabolism changes, so you are likely to put on weight as you get older, and it tends to be all around the tummy, doesn't it? And you know, as I say, I don't think Nicola had that at all. You know, she looked very slender, very, you know. Anyway, hair loss. You know, this is I remember, again, when I was a little girl, my mum would always say, oh, there's Mrs. Johnson, and look at her hair. I've still got, you know, my hair's still really thick. And I used to think, what are you going on about? But of course, you realise that as you go through femopause, you do lose hair. You have to look after your hair better. For whatever reason, that's obviously hormonal, but you know, one thing, I've got a video on here somewhere about looking after your hair. Jelly cubes, again, not for vegans, because they've got to be, you know, they do contain animal extract. But jelly cubes, years ago, I read in a magazine that they were good for your hair and your nails. And and I mean years ago, it was Jackie or something like that, when I was about, I don't know, 14 probably. And they really do work. You take those jelly cubes, you don't have to make them into jelly, just eat 1 cube a day. And I think that helps with your hair. I don't know, you know, maybe I'm not a good advert for it. What do you think? Because you do, I'm trying to sort my fringe out, and it's all in the wrong way around in the video. Anyway, I don't know. So I've still got hair anyway, let's put it that way. It's not as thick as it used to be. I do try and look after it. Another thing is maybe not to wash it very often, which sounds awful, but I'll tell you where I saw that. Joanna Lumley said it, and if any of you know Joanna Lumley, anything she says about looking good as you get older, I'm going to take on board, because Joanna Lumley, you know, she looks brilliant. So right, so I've totally, yeah, so hair. So yeah, there are tablets that you can get in the, look, I've made a right mess of my hair now, messing about with my fringe and everything. I haven't washed my hair this morning, by the way. There are tablets you can take. Yeah, she said you shouldn't wash your hair with shampoo too often. You can rinse it, you know, wash it, but don't use product on it. You're just rinsing it and cleaning it that way, and only shampoo sort of every now and again. But you can look it up. I mean, I don't know the exact recommendation, but I think it definitely works. Okay, so yeah, hair loss, but of course it sprouts out in different places, doesn't it? I mean, I'm very lucky. I'm not a hairy person in the sense, you know, I know a lot of ladies have to shave their legs and underarms, etc. I get, you know, I'm just not a hairy person. But yeah, when after the femopause, you do get a few little hairs here and there, and I like threading, and you know, I think threading is brilliant, you know, for that sort of thing, because it doesn't feel good, does it, to have hair in the wrong place. But you know, it's not exactly the end of the world, is it? You can deal with it. So yeah, no, and it's funny because one of the negatives, which is you can't have any more children, is also a positive, of course, depending on, you know, if you're wanting children, you haven't had any yet. I mean, one of my friends had her first child at 44 years old. So you know, people are definitely having children later these days, aren't they? So it's a bad thing if you're still wanting children and then you go through the menopause and you can't have them. But it's a good thing if you don't want any more children. Maybe you've had children while you were younger, or you just don't want any more. You're not in a different, you know, people tend to want children when they change relationships, don't they? That quite often happens. They get in a new relationship and then they want a child together, even though they've got children maybe from other relationships. So, but if you don't want any, it's brilliant, isn't it? Because you don't have to, well, you don't have to take any, you've got to be very careful as you're actually going through the femopause to make sure you still keep taking your, gosh, what do you call it, preventatives, what do you call it, gosh, don't even know the word for it. I've never taken any of it, but God, when you're taking the pill or whatever to prevent yourself getting pregnant, you have to be careful when you're going through the femopause, because you have to be aware that until really a year after, at least a year after your last period, it's still possible that you could get pregnant, because you still might have just one egg left there, unless you go for a test or something, because it depends how many eggs you've got you know, you might have one that just suddenly decides to pop out when you 3 months after your last period, and you're thinking you're safe, and it goes, oh, here I am. So yeah, now, and what we were saying earlier, negatives are the mood swings that maybe you might have, but you have those with periods anyway, so I think that cancels itself out. You know, I may have had mood swings. Do you know what's really difficult for me as well, because that time, apart from living in Spain, so not really knowing if I had hot flushes, though people say to me, oh, you would know. It was a very difficult time, which one day I'll put in my Confessions of a Spanish Teacher Part 2, going through a very, very, very traumatic time in my life. And I may have had mood swings, but I wouldn't have noticed because there were so many other things going on. You know, there was so much trauma that I didn't know whether it's from the femopause or what it was from. So it never occurred to me that it was from that. Maybe if my life would have been nice and calm and peaceful and tranquil, apart from going through the femopause, maybe. So I don't know, I can't comment on that, but I see that other people have said that they did have mood swings. Now, maybe that things were going on in their lives at the time, they haven't realised that maybe the mood swings were not from the femopause, but if their life didn't change and the only thing that changed in their life was going through the femopause, then it's likely to be connected, isn't it? I think even with things like that as well, people are different. What I've noticed is sometimes it sort of depends what you've been through in your life. If you've been through certain things, it's like, I'm not saying it's a walk in the park, but it's not, I don't know, or what you have to do, you know. I've noticed this with a lot of things. If you get up in the morning, you don't feel like going to work, but you have to, because if you don't go to work, nobody else is going to look after you, because you are it. You are it. Not only you are it, but you are propping up everybody else. You don't have a choice, you know. Well, your choice probably is to self-remove, but you're either going to do that or you've just got to keep going. So some people keep going, and all these things are happening in the background, but they're just keeping going. They're just ploughing through because they don't have a choice. Okay, so what? I think there are more. Oh, and of course the hot flushes or hot flashes, if you have them, they must be really unpleasant. As I say, I was lucky that I didn't have them, but yeah. So positives, you're not ruled by hormones anymore. You know, I always used to say when I was younger, oh my God, it'd be so nice if I could just have my hormones surgically removed, because that's how you fall in love with the wrong person sometimes, isn't it? Or you know, you're sort of, you can't be rational in the sense as far as love's concerned. You know, we've all, surely, men, women, whoever you are, I think we've all been led astray by our hormones at some part in our life where we fall in love with the wrong person, maybe more than once. But you don't have that anymore. So you think about things, if you fall in love with someone, it's for different reasons. I think it's quite nice, isn't it? Because it takes away all that, oh, you know, it doesn't, it's not a negative thing, it's a positive thing, because you were enjoying that without the, you know, like the buzz is lovely. I know when you meet someone when you're young, especially like your first love, which I do talk about in the book, it's lovely. But you know what, sometimes those feelings are too intense, aren't they? So sometimes you're better off with a different sort of love. But so yeah, you're not ruled by your hormones. You can't have children, so you don't have to take your family planning, whatever paraphernalia. You don't have to plan holidays around periods, you know, where you think, oh, I can't go away that week because I'll be on my period and it won't be very nice. Or you don't have to do that. Yeah, you know, that is a freedom. That makes that freedom word seem really, really potent, doesn't it? The freedom is a freedom. You don't have to buy products. If you're in England, if you're in Scotland, you do, or if you're in, I think in Wales you have to, ladies from Wales, you can let me know, but I think in Wales you have to pay, don't you? And Ireland. as far as I know, I think it is just Scotland where you don't have to pay, but you have to correct me on that. Yeah, that saves you a lot of money. They're expensive every month, you know, something else to pay for, and something that you can't do without. You know, you can't think, oh well, I'll cut down on my tampons. You can't. You're calmer, and you don't put up with bullshit. This is why I think, you know, sorry men who are watching, a lot of men like younger women because they don't call them out on so much, you know. It's like, I think as you get older, you think, right, I've done all that. I've looked after men, like these men babies, like Nicola's partner. I've done that. I've looked after them. I don't want to look after anyone. I want someone to look after me, or I'll look after myself and they'll look after themselves. You just want someone nice, someone respectful. You don't want to be making excuses for people. You know, I think we've all done that. I've done it. You know, it's just like, you're so blindly in love. Sometimes you do turn a blind eye to bad behaviour. My God, that's my phone ringing. Sorry, I just turned that off. Should have it on silent. So yeah, you're calmer. You don't get so, don't take bullshit basically from people, I think. So, what's the conclusion of all that? I hope you've enjoyed that, and I've sort of just tried to give as much information as I can. And I know some of it's conflicting, and that is the conclusion basically that I've come to. It is different, seems like it is different for everyone. There are things you can do, and they work, like the HRT, works for some people, doesn't work for other people. Then there's like the natural remedies that you can try, but I think the most important thing is to talk about it. And it is good that these days people talk about it, but we've got to be careful that it doesn't get hijacked, like I think it has done in this case a bit, because it's a popular talking point at the moment. Carol Vorderman talking about it. I love Carol Vorderman. Rod Stewart's wife Penny Lancaster was on the telly talking about it. You know, everyone's talking about it, but you've got to be careful it doesn't turn into a thing that people start blaming everything on that. So, oh well, yeah, she was going through the femopause, or oh well, even she was on her period at the time, so no, you know, you know, there is this tendency to blame that. Is it how many times in my life that a man has turned around to me if I've got angry about something and said, "Are you on your period?" You know, it's just like, you can only be angry if you're on your period. I mean, don't get me wrong, you do get angry when you're on your period sometimes, but you can get angry at other times as well. Maybe you did something wrong, you know, maybe you did something wrong and that's why I'm angry. So, yeah, but times are changing, everything's different now from when I was young. Just the fact it's not called a curse anymore is probably a result in itself. Oof. So, as I say, I hope you've enjoyed that video, that chat. I do feel like I'm just chatting with you. And let me know any comments, of course, anything you agree with, anything you don't agree with. I don't care if you agree with it or not. I like your comments, and they make me think about, sometimes they make me think about things in a different way. There was a comment I'd made about the Facebook page of Nicola and saying I thought they should take it down, and a lady came on and said her husband's Facebook page was still up, and she took comfort from it every year when you know, people mentioned him or wished him a happy birthday, and I'd never thought of it like that before. And that's a totally another, there's always another way to think about things, and I could really appreciate that and see that that could be a comfort. I suppose I was thinking about my own personal Facebook page and not wanting people, you know, to be flashing up to people, but yeah, I wasn't thinking about how a partner might feel about that and be comforted by comments left, etc., tributes made, things like that. So yeah, so let me know your comments, whether they're in agreement or in disagreement. A couple of things I've thought about doing for future videos. I'm going to do some more true crime. There's not much saying more about Nicola now, is there, until the inquest, or in case other information comes out. There's a lot of sort of still speculation, daft information comes out. I've seen it on other channels and things, and I think it's that really useful. But yeah, if there's anything you can think of that you'd quite like me to do a chat about, for us to have a chat about, to me to get some opinions, I'd quite like to do some wine tasting. I'd quite like to do some makeup videos maybe, or beauty type things, or hair things. You know, I'm very interested in anything like that. But I will be doing some true crime. So is there any cases that you would quite like being covered, like me to look at? Yeah, please let me know in comments. I love your comments. And as always, I'll see you very soon in the next video. Live and love very carefully, whether you're very femapausal or post-femapausal or whatever you are, or you're only 20 and it's just like in the future, you can't even imagine it. One thing you need to do is love and live wisely, and try not to take too much notice of your hormones, which always lead you astray, I'm afraid. But it's fun while it lasts. So I'll see you very soon in the next video, and until then, may your God go with you. Thank you.